This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Thank you very much, Manny. And as Manny just said, I am Downrigger Dale with the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Of course, you also hear me on the Montana Outdoor Radio Show. And, you know, we have a lot of you that listen to this podcast from all over the place, all around the world. And some of you have emailed and said, now, you talk about that radio show. What's that about? Well, it's real easy to find us. If you just go to montanooutdoor.com, and if you are outside of Montana, then just click on the Listen Live button, and you can hear us every Saturday morning from 6 to 8 live. You can also find us on Facebook. We do a Facebook Live during that time from 6 to 8 Saturday mornings. That's Mountain Time, of course. So you can catch us there, or you can also, on montanooutdoor.com, you can listen to the last week's show as well. So if you missed out or don't want to get up that early, you can do it that way. So we'd love to have you there. Also, I want to give a shout out to our active military listening from all around the world. As I always say, we are very honored that when you get some time off protecting the world and our great country, we're honored that you spend so much time with us here and listen to podcasts. And I hope we bring a little bit of home back to you, and thank you for your service and what you do all around the world there. Now, I want to bring in here a friend of the Montana Outdoor Radio Show and the Montana Outdoor Podcast, a guy by the name of Ross Tate. Ross, thanks for joining me here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thank you very much, Downrigger. It's a total honor. It's a pleasure to be here. Wonderful morning, beautiful weather, beautiful day to be fishing also.
Yeah.
Here in western Montana.
Yeah. Now, Ross, you are a guy that loves to head up to Flathead Lake. For those of you that aren't familiar with Flathead, it's up in northwest Montana. It's actually got an interesting stat to it. It is the largest natural freshwater lake west of the Mississippi. So it's a large natural lake. Of course, there are bigger reservoirs, but this is a natural lake. Beautiful lake and very clear, but it has a fish in it that this time of year, whenever they decide to bite, it's a real interesting fish. They call it Lake Superior Whitefish. Some people call them Lake Whitefish. Ross, you have been up there chasing that Lake Superior Whitefish, even though they are the most abundant of all fish in Flathead Lake. Yeah, it is so weird that they the bite is only on a few times a year. I don't know where they go. Have you ever figured out where the heck those fish go when they're not?
Well, not for sure, but most people that talk about it believe that they go deep and they come in to a fishable range at this time of the year, chasing their food supply. And that's interesting you note that, because the Lake Superior Whitefish comes from the Great Lakes. And, you know, they seem to catch whitefish year-round in Lake Michigan and Lake Superior. But here in Montana, as you said, on Flathead Lake, stunningly large lake, probably one of the most beautiful spots in the United States. At certain times of the day or week, that Flathead Lake is stunning. And the whitefish, what a great time of the year this is to catch whitefish, chase them, and successfully get a cooler full of that beautiful fish. And what a great tasting fare it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, that's the primary reason that people love to go up there and fish for them is that they really are great eating. This is not like a sucker fish. This is just a delicious flaky white meat, great to eat. And we're going to get all into how you catch them, how you find them, all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I wanted
Good.
first to let folks know. A little bit about you. Tell us about yourself, Ross, where you're from and what you do and all that when you're not fishing for whitefish up on Flathead Lake.
I'm just recently retired from working at Shields, a nationwide sporting goods store. Previous to that, I'd worked in the medical arena and moved here from Minneapolis, St. Paul in 1988, thinking that I would like to live here in this small little town of Missoula, Montana, for a little while. But that changed, especially after I found out more about lake fishing in western Montana. Stunning.
Yeah.
Stunning to get up onto that lake. So I've learned a lot about fishing flathead, fishing specifically for the Lake Superior Whitefish. And so being close enough to it here in Missoula, only an hour drive away from myself, my friends, people I've met on the lake that I've become friends with. I have met numerous people on the lake fishing. And as you know, when the bite gets on, the fishermen, the boats come out and nestled against the Mission Mountains, big lake, islands, points, places to go on the lake. It's just so beautiful. It's you would call this God's country.
Yeah.
And it is just it's the right thing to do for me. So I'm a married man with children and grandchildren. And what a great fun family event to do. Day before yesterday, two very good friends from Minneapolis, St. Paul, Greg and Dave, flew in because they've heard me talk about this for years, and they made the trek. They're here for a week. And we went yesterday, and the first fish caught by Greg wasn't one, but two whitefish on the line at the same time. So
wow.
if you know how much a whitefish fights,
Oh, yeah.
imagine two on the same line.
Wow, what a great way for him to start and be introduced to that. My goodness.
It was wonderful.
So, Ross, that's the other thing I think it surprises a lot of people when I talk to them about fishing for the Lake Superior Whitefish on Flathead Lake is one, they're surprised that they're a very, very good eating fish. And then two, they are surprised that they fight so hard. That is one of the hardest fighting fish I think you can find in Montana. Don't you agree?
I totally agree. I've caught lots of different fish in Montana, and pound for pound, these whitefish are great. They average 3 to 4 pounds. And, pulling them up from an average depth of 50, 52 feet, you've got ways to pull them up. So you have a fight. And I think that these whitefish go to an athletic club and work out.
Yeah.
Because just because you got one on the line doesn't mean you're getting it in the boat.
Exactly. And the interesting thing about it, from what, I fished for them several times, is when the bite gets on, it can be fast and furious, and you've got other people in the boat, people around you. It can get a little, as we say, get a little Western if you're not careful, can it?
It can get busy.
Yeah.
Well, I've been on a pontoon where we had 4 guys and we had 4 fish and 4 nets, and having the right kind of net makes a difference too. But it's such a turn on, the whole ambiance of it. Like I know I'm repeating myself, but Flathead Lake is so beautiful. You're catching fish, the rod is bent over, the line is tight, and there's no guarantee you're going to get them in. And you have to pay attention. Everybody that goes, they are laughing because it's so much fun.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of those things that you're not going to forget it. Now, let's get into the equipment side of things. We're going to take a quick break here, Ross, but when we come back, I want you to talk about rod, reel, and then we'll get into bait and all that stuff too. We'll do that right after this. In Montana, discover a land where adventure roams free. Explore small towns where every corner tells a story and every greeting comes with a smile. Saddle up for breathtaking horseback rides or catch a fish in a crystal clear lake. Spend your evening sharing stories around a campfire under a starlit sky. That's how you Montana. Plan your trip at visitmt.com. That's visitmt.com. Hey, gang, thanks for supporting and listening to this podcast. I can't tell you how much it means to all of us that you're here. And speaking of support, we would not be able to do this podcast at all if it weren't for sponsors like Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. It is truly an honor to have Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer on our team. You know, if you own a trailer, you ought to think about adding them to your team too. They can service your trailer, and when it comes to repairing trailers, well, you won't find anyone better at it than Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. If it's parts you need to do your own service and repairs, well, they are the place for that. Another thing you may not know about Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer is they install all kinds of accessories for the truck that pulls your trailer. Whether it's just the necessary items to help your truck get the trailer down the road perfectly, or all those gadgets and bells and whistles to dress your truck up a bit and, well, make it your unique style. And here's the best part. The folks that do all those repairs and installations are real technicians. They do things the right way and do it to such a degree of precision and reliability that you can roll down the road with confidence. Whether you need your trailer bearings packed, the whole thing rewired, or the right fifth wheel, or any kind of hitch installed, you're going to know that your trailer is ready to haul what you want worry-free. No matter if it's getting you and your four-legged coworker to the next rodeo or job, or just hauling a load to the dump, or getting the boat and RV to your favorite fishing hole, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer has you covered. And of course, if you need a new trailer, they can set you up with a brand new Diamond C gooseneck equipment, dump trailer, or whatever else you need to haul wherever you are going worry-free, happy, and looking good, too. Heck, they even carry an amazing line of CM truck beds that'll make your rig look and work like new. It's what they do at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. They're in Missoula, or you can find them on the web at rmtte.com. That's rmtte.com. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Go see them. We are back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Ross Tate is my guest. Ross is one of these guys that he hears the whitefish is on, and you better get out of the way on Highway 93 between Missoula and Flathead Lake, because he's heading that way in a hurry.
That's right.
So let's get into the equipment side of things. What do you use to catch these whitefish up on Flathead Lake?
Oh, I like a fast rod. I like a 6.5 foot rod. Some people like a 7 foot rod so you can get a little further away from the boat. But a fast rod means something that's pretty stiff, because the average depth of the bite is 50, 52 feet. So you need a stiff rod so you can set the hook. Mm-hmm. And you want to set that hook so that will stay in nice and tight. So that's the rod. A lightweight reel. Mm-hmm. You know, I use an open face reel, and most people do. Uh-huh. So and we're dead sticking off the side of the boat, so you're not really casting out. Dropping straight down with 3/8, maybe a half ounce weighted lure, and then a braided line. Most people find critical.
Okay.
Some people may or may not use some monofilament 3 to 5 feet, maybe upwards of 10 feet at the maximum of monofilament, thinking that the fish won't see it. But I can guarantee you, when the bite is on, just like you said, when it's fast and furious, they will hit your bait tied right to the terminal end of your braided line all day long.
I'll be damned. Okay, so no worries about that, about lead or anything. Just tie it on and hold on. Let's talk about what bait you use to get after these things.
So my primary bait is a Zimmer tackle from Dick Zimmer Tackle and Pablo. And they're in all the stores around town. Shields has a ton of it. And Zimmer makes a rattle disaster specifically for the whitefish. The dark green or light green, when he makes those, they have these little stainless steel balls on the inside that rattle when they hit the bottom, which attracts the attention of the fish. And whether it's the sound or the vibration, I'm not sure. The rattle disaster replicates baby perch, a perch fry. And in the last week, which I've been up 5 days in the last 7, many of the whitefish are spitting out 1 inch long baby perch. And that's what we're replicating on the bottom is perch. And that's what the whitefish come in to. And these whitefish have no teeth. So they're just sucking them in or pinning them to the ground. Sometimes they snare them when you're dropping your lure. So sometimes on the drop, you'll get a nice bite. Hard time to set when you're on the drop.
Yeah.
But a lot of people let that rattle disaster hit the bottom, raise a little dust, make a little noise or vibration, and snap jig, meaning pull it up real quick. Pull it up 1 to 3 feet off the bottom. And then you will get your bite.
Okay, so you're just dropping it at the bottom, then pulling it up about 3 feet or so, just popping it up every so often, then and creating that movement.
Absolutely, just like that. And sometimes you may let it sit on the bottom for 3, 4, 5 seconds. Some guys leave a little long. Most people let it hit the bottom, sit there for a few moments, and pull up because those whitefish are looking for that. The other thing that Zimmer has is a little ready-to-go setup, and that's what he calls it in his packaging. And that includes a clasp that you tie to the terminal end of your line, and about 3 inches down from that is a fly made by Zimmer. And yellow, green, he has another color that he came out with. And then the rattle disasters, another 12, 14 inches below that. So again, dropping down, hitting the bottom, but that fly will now be about a foot up off the bottom. And so those whitefish that are coming in, they may want to eat an insect.
Okay.
So sometimes, so that's what happened to my good friend Greg Olson yesterday. He pulled up and he had one on the fly and he had one on the rattle disaster.
Wow.
Exactly. It was so great.
Yeah, that's gotta be a little crazy. Did they get all wrapped up in the line having 2 on like that, or did they stay pretty well separated?
No, they stay separate. They're a foot apart, and that was getting them in. That was a challenge.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah.
I wish I had my video up, but then I would love to send it to you guys and post it because it was really fun to see. The first time the rod completely bent over. Talk about a tight line, reeling in. Then that line would go ripping out. Like you said earlier, these fish fight pound for pound as well as any fish in the state of Montana. They're just absolutely great. So it was going in, going out. That line was tight. The pole was bent. Almost laughing uncontrollably because what a wild ride for your first fish. And the rest of the day, we caught fish the rest of the day till 2 PM. It used to be in the early days when I started fishing 20 some years ago for whitefish, around 10, 11 o'clock, the whitefish bite would be off and all the boats would be kind of done and out by noon. But lately, the last couple of years, it seems like I've been able to fish well into the afternoon. And in different spots of the lake seem to turn on sooner. Some seem to last longer in the day. And it just depends what part of the season of the whitefish bite and where you are on Flathead Lake makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. So this bite got started, what, about 2 weeks ago? Or when did you notice that the bite really got going there on Flathead Lake?
2 weeks ago, today, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
2 weeks ago today, I went out into my favorite spot on the south end of the lake and surprisingly did well. I was in the Narrows, and then I slid around the corner of Finley Point into Skidoo Bay and did well. I caught like 10 by the Narrows and about 12, and I thought, okay, I'm off to a good start. I'll take 20 of these any day, and it's progressed every day since then. The numbers are increasing. You can see the fish on the bottom with your fish locator, and you can see the number of boats. I know numbers of people that I stay in touch with every day. Yeah. Once the whitefish bite is on, I am busy not only fishing, but helping other people also and helping them get to the right spot. And what a treat to get anybody turned on to whitefish fishing.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, as far as when you go out to locate these using your fish finder, what are you looking for? Are they all kind of just down on the bottom? Are they suspended? What are you seeing?
Great question. Not suspended. Always on the bottom is what I see. And when I say on the bottom, primarily 1 to 3 feet off the bottom, as best you can using your fish finder. But a lot of times these fish will be tails up, mouth down, pinning, looking for these perch fry. Okay. So it may not look like your normal marking, whatever your fish finder shows. They'll be vertical in addition to being horizontal, but they are not very far off the bottom.
Okay. And typically you say this time of year, what, are they around 50 feet down, you think?
The average depth is 52 feet, and you can catch them depends upon the day, depends upon the feed, 35 to 70 feet. But the average depth is 52. If you did a bell curve from 35 to 70 feet, the average is 52 feet. But you have to look for them. They kind of come in waves, schools, and they don't seem to sit in one exact spot, but they seem to follow the geography. But I think what they're really doing is following the thermocline. They feel, I think the perch follow the thermocline, and then the whitefish look for the perch.
Okay.
So the way we're fishing for them with the rattle disasters, and there are other companies, other people making tackle that replicates Dick Zimmer's rattle disaster. And I've tried, I think, all of them. Mm-hmm. And they all work. They really do. But I think, in my personal experience anyway, the rattle disaster is absolutely golden. And my all-time favorite, and I've done this head-to-head this year and years past, the 3/8 ounce dark green with the red hologram color on it, 3/8 ounce dark green with red. Rattle disaster is the best.
Okay.
The others, they all work. They really do. But the rattle disaster works the best.
Yeah, that is what I've used with them, and I hear that all the time. Now, do you tip those with any kind of bait at all?
You know, I have not. I've done that a few times. I'll do that at least a couple times per year, but on an average, on a regular 85% of the time, I do not. This year, I'm trying a little scent on them, kind of a gel scent. That is a garlic crawfish, and I don't think it made any difference. I know that my fingers and the handle on my fishing rod smell different.
Yeah.
I know that much.
Yeah, that's one of the bad things about that scent is you end up carrying it with you the rest of the day. Uh,
Oh my, yeah.
so
No, and some people do, and very successful whitefish fishermen they'll put maggots or tip them with some maggots, and I don't think it's required. But you're not burning any bridges by doing it.
right.
If somebody is doing better than I am and they're tipping with magnets, I'm going to go over and talk to them, see if I can borrow some.
Okay. What is the limit for whitefish on Flathead Lake?
They're pretty tight. You're only allowed to keep 100 per day. And
100. There you go.
100.
Wow. So
that's too many. Unless you have a bunch of people that are going to help you take care of them right away.
Mm-hmm.
So I love eating them. That white meat, that white flaking meat, once you've cooked it, is so darn good. I kind of put it as a cross between walleye and halibut, right in that flavor, but its own flavor. But it's very similar. When you catch these fish, it's the ones I'm going to keep. As soon as they come out of the water, I'm throwing them into the cooler on ice, and I layer them in ice. So I bring a lot of ice. I bring a big cooler. I'm going to keep 20, and I'll process 10 for pan fishing, barbecue, and then I'll process 10 to smoke. And for myself personally, processing more than 20 per day is too much. And the reason I mention all this, whitefish need to be kept cold right away. They will not survive very well in your live well or any other method that you want to keep them. Put them right away into ice in your cooler. Your fish will last. They'll make it. And you have to, by the end of the day, in my experience, into the freezer. So as soon as I'm home, Downrigger, I'm cleaning fish, and I rinse them thoroughly, vacuum seal them, and into the freezer, and then they are good for a long time. And the ones that I'm going to eat that day, fresh whitefish is so good.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Yeah, it really is. So is there any special way that you clean those fish, or is it pretty much just like you would do with any fish?
Well, primarily as much as you do with other fish. I always scale the skin for my friend who's a master at smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't like the scales. Scales get in the house or garage. They take forever to get rid of.
Right.
He likes the skin on for smoking. Otherwise, I will fillet them, skin off, and then I will flip that fillet over and, of course, get all the rib bones out. But there's a bloodline on the skin side of the fillet. I cut that bloodline out on every fish. Now that I have a clean fillet, it gets rinsed for a minimum of 5 minutes so that it rinses off some of that oily, fishy smell, so that when you are eating, you are tasting the pure, wonderful taste of the whitefish and nothing else.
Okay.
So I really, keeping them cold, cutting out the bloodline, and thoroughly rinsing them, whether you put them in a vat and run your garden hose, if you got a whole bunch, or if you have a dual sink that you can, or your sink, thoroughly rinse and wash those fillets off for 5 minutes or however long. They're nice.
Yeah.
They're clean. They'll taste wonderful.
Yeah, that's great information. And I'll see if I can find a few things online just to leave in links for those of you listening. When you come to the podcast, whether you're coming through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on MontanaOutdoor.com, wherever you go to get it, you'll see a podcast description. Gives a little description of what you're going to be listening to, and then you'll see an area that says links, and in there I'll put a link in there to some information about Flathead Lake and those areas, so that those of you that want to give this a try have some good instruction there. Where do you usually put in, Ross, when you're going to go after these fish? You tend to, fish on the south end of the lake? And so where are you putting in? Are you over putting in Big Arm or where?
Yes, I put in at Big Arm, Elmo, Walstead. I may put in Polson, but Finley Point, Blue Bay, or even as far north as Yellow Bay. My indicator of where to put in is where are the strong winds coming from if it's going to be windy.
Okay.
So, if it's coming out of the north, I'm over in Elmo. If it's coming out of the south, I'm at Walstead or Finley Point. And then I do like to fish the south end of the lake because it's closer.
Mm-hmm.
The lake is 27 miles long, so it's just quicker on the south end of the lake. And I get my reservation license, and I only fish on the reservation, so it's not very costly. And I have no problems with that at all.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to bring up is on Flathead Lake there is some special licensing beyond just getting your FWP, conservation license and fishing license. If you're going to fish the south end, so the south half of the lake, then you need a reservation license from the Salish, the Confederated Salish Kootenai tribe there, which you can get at really any of sporting goods stores, and as well as get it online through the FWP too.
Yes, correct. So just take care of that. That's no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's about $20 for the residents. So I have loved putting in at Big Arm. I love fishing in front of the Big Arm State Park, Dead Man's Point. Right around the corner is a blue slippery slide into Elmo Bay, which is the most western part of the lake. And as they flow, these whitefish move around the lake. You kind of chase them. And it's kind of fun to talk with the people who are catching them. Maybe they're on the west side of the lake in the Big Arm Elmo area, maybe Melita Island, sometimes even right in and around Wild Horse Island. Then as I head east, Rocky Point, I like to also get early in the bite, which seemed to have started late this year. This was towards the end of July. Last year I started catching June 29th. The first of the big whitefish in the Narrows right off Finley Point.
Uh-huh.
And that was the same this year, but almost a month later. And right now, it's just real steady and hot as far as catching them in Skidoo Bay. It's wonderful. And you can see more and more people are figuring that out, and more boats are going. But I see nets in the water a lot.
Yeah.
So I think the whitefish bite is just beginning. The perch are only about an inch long, and I think they're going to grow quite a bit over the next month. I'm hoping, but I'm going to bet that this whitefish bite is going to last the whole month of August.
Okay,
that's what I think.
That's one of the things I was going to ask you is how long you think this is going to go. So probably by end of August, it's going to be slowing down. Ross, we're going to take one more quick break here, but when we come back, I want you to talk about if folks want to come from the north and hit the north end of the lake, if there's any areas that you might suggest there. So sure. I'll ask you that, and then we'll wrap this up, as well as I want you to, before you go, to talk to us a bit about some of the other fish you like to target in Flathead. So we'll do that right after this. I mentioned it before, and I'll say it again. It means a great deal to everyone that works on this podcast to have so many of you listening each week. Thank you all so very much. Another huge thank you needs to also go out to my friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Without their support, we simply would not have a podcast. Just like us, you can depend on Superior Hardwoods of Montana, especially when you're ready to turn the place you live into your home. Now, what do I mean? Well, the place you live is not really your home until it reflects who you are. One of the best ways to do that is to go see my friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. For example, they have some incredible antique redwood reclaimed from a Marcus Daly water plume built back in 1917, running from Georgetown Lake to the Phillipsburg mines. They have many other reclaimed options to choose from, as well as like corral board, antique oak, granary lumber, barn siding that is beautifully aged from natural weathering. That could be perfect for your home's soffit, siding, or paneling on an accent wall. They also have antiqued hand-hewn beams and saw-cut timbers that in a way is a tribute to our American history and to your home. Superior Hardwoods is also the place to find the perfect wood to create the ultimate outdoor space, like that incredible deck you've always wanted. Yeah, Superior Hardwoods of Montana is for sure your decking headquarters. Not only do they have a variety of exotic hardwood decking options, but they also have domestic classic traditional cedar. And the best part of that is they are offering exclusive pricing on gorgeous high-quality cedar decking right now. There are lots of benefits to cedar decking. It is resistant to temperature and weather conditions. It won't warp due to moisture. It is rot resistant and requires less maintenance than other softwoods. Go see them on the web at superior-hardwoods.com or stop by their showroom in Missoula and let them guide you through the woods. Remember, on the web it's superior-hardwoods.com. Oh, you're gonna love what they do to your home. In Montana, discover a land where adventure roams free. Explore small towns where every corner tells a story and every greeting comes with a smile. Saddle up for breathtaking horseback rides or catch a fish in a crystal clear lake. Spend your evening sharing stories around a campfire under a starlit sky. That's how you Montana. Plan your trip at visitmt.com. That's visitmt.com. And back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, Downrigger Dale with you. Of course, Ross Tate is my guest today, and we're learning all about these Lake Superior whitefish. What a fun fish to catch! And Ross, you've been great in describing the whole thing. It's been perfect, and getting some good information about where to find them, how to find them, and all that. So we've got some good ideas, and again, folks, I'll put a link to a map of Flathead Lake, so as you were hearing Ross mention some of these areas, you'll be able to see it real easy on the map. And then, of course, a lot of you have got your maps, in your navigation on your boat, so that'll be able to be easy to take it out there and find them. So, Ross, as far as do these whitefish, do they tend to move around as the bite gets older? Like, we figure it's probably going to last for the whole month of August. So yeah. Are they moving north or south, or is there any rhyme or reason why they move where they move?
There is. They're moving for food. And the way we catch them is replicating perch fry, baby perch. Mm-hmm. And as those baby perch move, so do the whitefish. The whitefish don't hole up in one area specifically and stay there. They're on the hunt. They're moving. And so I described the south end of the lake, but there are whitefish throughout the lake from north to south, east to west. So up on the north end, fishing the delta, whether you put in a Summers Lakeside or West Shore, Big Fort, these are the quickest ways out onto the delta. Mm-hmm. Coming on the east side of the lake, coming down to Woods Bay Point, a little bit north of Woods Bay, flipping over to the other side, Angels Point, Painted Rocks, Shelter Island. These are all favorite spots that people do well. And even a little further down in front of the Methodist camp.
Yeah.
It's a summer camp. And we have done very well there. But they don't last. They don't sit there. You have to go there. You have to look for them, fish for them, and get out your rattle disaster And if some people don't use a fly, I love using a fly. Those spots up north, when I stay in touch with my buddies, Matt and Cameron, a couple of guys for the Big Sky Fishing Charter, these guys, Matt, we think of Matt from Mo Fish.
Yeah, Matt from Mo Fish.
I love that guy. So that all those spots that they fish up there that I just mentioned, I fish those.
Mm-hmm.
I fish down south early because it's closer to Missoula, and I think I'm just guessing on an average that the bite starts sooner in the Narrows, maybe Skidoo Bay or Big Arm, a little sooner than up north. But I stay in touch with Matt Cameron, and they're on fire. They are really on fire catching whitefish right now.
Yeah, and I'm going to put a link to in the podcast description to Big Sky Fishing Charters, because Big Sky Fishing Charters, they that's the main name of the charter company, but they own Mo Fish and several other charter companies all together. So,
okay,
and folks that listen to this podcast regularly, you've heard me talk about to Chris Mischke, the owner of Big Sky Fishing Charters. So you go back and you can hear him, but they are an excellent company, especially for those of you out of town, rather than, try to hunt all this down yourself. A great way. And Chris and Matt both are more than happy to instruct you is hire them for a day or two, and they'll get you dialed in on what to use, how to use it, technique, where to find them, all that. And if you bring your boat, then you can go off by yourself after a couple of days and you'll have it dialed in. Because as you were saying, Ross, this is a big lake. And if you don't know right where to go, you could be spending a lot of time hunting instead of catching. So,
right. And I love those guys. My son works for a really cool electrical engineering firm in Bozeman. They're coming to town in 2 weeks. So I booked a day with Matt, and that's what we're going to do. Is we're going to have 5 guys on Matt's boat. Matt's such a great guy. Cameron's a great guy, and we're going to go look for whitefish. And I'm going to watch 5 other guys get totally turned on with poles bent and not realizing what a strong fight this whitefish is.
Yeah, it really, it is something you really do need to experience, because so many people, and I'm like you, Ross, I love it when I take people out there, because you say, now you be ready, this can be a big fight. And they always look at me like, oh, come on, it's a whitefish. That's not kind of
right.
fight. Well, it's a different kind of whitefish. And man, you see the change in their face when all of a sudden they go, holy smokes, wow.
Right.
So when you're not targeting these whitefish, which again is kind of odd, but there's only a couple times a year where these things will turn on. Otherwise, I'm sure they're feeding out there and doing stuff, but boy, you'll play hell trying to catch them other than these times. When you're not fishing for the whitefish, what else do you target out there on Flathead Lake?
Of course, lake trout. I love fishing for lake trout, 50 to 200 feet. If you want to jig for them, find your favorite spots. Or if you want to troll when they start coming in a little closer to shore, a little higher up in the water column, meaning 50 to 20 feet down, it's just great. Mm-hmm. I'm now the prolific explosion of this apex predator called the smallmouth bass in Flathead Lake is stunning. That's a great fish to fish for, and I love fishing the docks. I have these short or flat billed plugs that don't dive too deep, and in 5 feet of water you can catch lots of smallmouth bass. And occasionally I have caught a big northern pike who's kind of cruising the edges. And northern pike, it's amazing how big these pike have grown in the last 3 years or so. I know guys who are catching 15 to 20, 12 to 18 pound northern pike in Polson Bay. So, with the perch, northern pike, smallmouth bass, Lake Superior whitefish, lake trout, Flathead Lake, since I've been here since 1988, Flathead Lake, to me, is now a total turn on. and especially this time of the year, because we're at the peak. We're at the top of the roller coaster, just laughing with our arms in the air, getting ready for the ride, because we're catching whitefish, lake trout, perch, a northern pike, and smallmouth bass, which has a limit of 25. And if you've never eaten smallmouth bass, you need to try it.
Yeah,
they're really good.
They are. Yeah, so there's some fun stuff to target up there, and just like you, when you first came to Montana and thought, this is kind of a neat place, Montana has an effect on people. It really does. And before you know it, you're going, I think I'm going to try to find a way to live here because it grows on you fast because of all the great places you can go. And up there in northwest Montana, there's just so many great places. I just had a podcast before this one, which was running all about the Thompson chain of lakes, which is not too far away from Flathead. And that's another spectacular place. So, yeah, this is a good place to get out and explore and do. One of the things I didn't ask you, Ross, that I wanted to get clear for folks is when you get out into these areas where the whitefish are you just spot locking with your electric troller, or how are you staying in? Because you want to just stay in one place and fish right below the boat, right?
Oh, I do. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I finally saved up and maybe wised up and bought Minn Kota Tarova with the spot lock on it. What a difference between a rope and an anchor, trying to guesstimate where the wind will push the boat, and are you going to sit on top of them? Do they move? To using the electric motor, looking at your fish finder, spot locking, sitting on top of them, and yanking them out. And if they move, you just use your electric, turn off your spot lock and do circles, concentric circles to figure out where they went. And I do that constantly, all the time. When I'm fishing and I'm chasing and successfully getting them. It's just like that technology is fabulous.
Yeah,
it's just total deal breaker.
It really is. It helps you and saves your arms. I guess when I was younger, that wasn't as big a deal, but nowadays you start pulling an anchor up from 50 or 70 feet and you're going, oh boy. Yeah, that is for sure the way to go. But the old anchor works too if you don't have that. But it's the way to go if you can, is have that electric trolling motor.
It really is,
and do it that way. Now the one thing that maybe you can describe a little, because the one thing I do want to caution people on Flathead Lake is it is a big lake. It is in an area of northern west Montana where the weather can change on you pretty quick.
Yes.
That lake can get pretty dangerous pretty fast, right?
It can, and you need to have your head on a swivel when you're fishing, just to check every so often. You may think you got a good handle on it. If you are not paying attention and there's dark or blue water coming your way, white caps, it's time to get off the lake. And this year, two of my friends came over in their boat. We were fishing smallmouth off Wild Horse Island, and I realized after about 5 minutes that these guys were wearing these draped-on, self-inflating life preservers, and they're not in your way. They're easy. You forget that you're even wearing them. But I make it a habit from now on. I went out to Shields and bought a couple. And I feel much safer. Every year, people drown in Flathead Lake. This year, a 34-year-old gentleman, unfortunately, lost his life, drowned not far from Finley Point near the Narrows. And it's just an example of 34-year-old strong human being lost his soul because he drowned. So you're right. Not to scare anybody, but to be smart, to be wise, and have your life preserver near or on your body.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you talked about that, because that's so important for this lake. Being a mountain lake like this, it is very cold water, and it does warm up some in the summer, but I mean, a few feet down, it's very cold. And that's usually the problem that people have, even if you're a strong swimmer, if you get thrown overboard, even,
Yep.
you think you're fairly close to the shore and you can swim for it,
Yep.
the hypothermia will get you. And so even with a life jacket, you're really risking. So like you say, best just as the conditions change, you see that, get off the lake. The fish will stay there. You can go back when it calms down. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is all about fun. And, from my standpoint, I'm providing meat for my family.
Mm-hmm.
That's the excuse I tell my wife.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You say, we don't want to starve to death, honey. That's why I'm going to be gone for a few days to just, do your thing. Of course, being in the podcast side of it and the radio side of it, I always call it show research. I have to go do show research. Nobody buys that anymore, though. Well, Ross,
Great.
I want to thank you so much for your time and telling us all about this. Now, if folks have questions that they'd like to ask you some more questions, do you mind if I put your email in, or would you rather them email you?
Oh, feel free.
Okay.
No, put my email in there. That'd be great.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll put that in the podcast description, folks. And that way, if you have some questions, you can talk to Ross. He knows a lot about this, as I'm sure you've gathered by listening at this point. You know the guy knows what he's doing. So, and get out there and have some fun. This is a great time to hit Flathead Lake and do that. And good luck to you and your friends as they're up here. What'd you say, for a week now? They're going to be up here chasing them. So.
Well, thank you very much, Dale. It's a treat to be on here. You're welcome, and I appreciate you having me on. And there are a lot of great fishermen. There are a lot of great times and great memories, and there's lots of whitefish, so go get them.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. There's Ross Tate with telling us all about those great Lake Superior whitefish. I encourage all of you to check out some of the links below in the podcast description and check all that out. And like Ross just said, if you got questions, shoot him an email. He'd be more than happy to help you. So have some fun out there with these things, gang. It is a great time and only happens a few times a year. So I'd get out there and try this out. And when you do, shoot me some pictures. Manny will give you my email address here in just a second. Shoot me some pictures so we can post them on MontanaOutdoor.com. Thanks so much for listening. Be safe out there. Be good to each other. And we'll see you next time here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.